Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode.
Hello, everyone. And before we get started with today's episode, I just want to let you know about the Mystical Life Coach certification that we're running the second week in January. Now, if you've been listening to any of the podcasts at MSU, you've been listening to Ellie or myself or any other of our amazing coaches, we are about to run another semester of certifying coaches in this work. It is a 6-month journey of self-transformation, self-discovery, but you'll also learn the skills on how to coach this work. It's led and taught by Rachel Fiori, supported by the entire MSU community. So if you are interested in doing this and becoming a coach and earning the Mystical Life Coach certification, please follow the link below, fill out the application, and jump on a quick consultation with me. I'll see you in another episode. Thanks.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Masters of Self University podcast. I'm your host, Ellie Lee.
And I'm your host, Danny Morley.
And today we are joined by the magnificent mystical life coach, Emily Armstrong, everybody.
Oh, thank you, Ellie. Thank you, Danny. It's good to be here.
That's good to have you on. I'm so fascinated by what we're going to dive into today. The sequence of uncovering and healing a particular program. Anytime we talk about programs, I'm a nerd. I would just love to learn and love to hear the breakdown, the sequence that you're speaking of. So let's jump into it.
Yeah, okay then. So the sequence, I love the sequence of programs unfolding, things that you see about yourself, because for me, it's never like one linear thing. It's always like a little stepping stone towards other programs and other things that are hidden away. And I had an experience, it's probably a couple of months back now, where I had a trigger that triggered a beautiful, horrific program of humiliation. It was a very kind of public thing as far as my program's perceived. And it's not something that gets triggered in me very often because my life is kind of designed to the way I like it. And I'm very discerning about who I bring into my life. And so those opportunities don't come up all that often, those circumstances. So, I mean, immediately I'm overwhelmed by the trigger because the results are, extreme overwhelm, feeling like I'm isolated, like everyone's watching me, feeling really tensing up immediately, like every part of me. And I have a tendency, if it's shame or guilt or anything, in those lower vibrations like humiliation, to do a lot of internal tensing, like my jaw internally, I crunch my abs. I always remember one of my friends on holiday was like, "You never work out. Why have you got a 4-pack?" And I'm like, I don't know. And now I do. I'm like, the amount I'm tensing, it has its advantages. So that is one of my things. And I knew I was doing that just to kind of, in the moment. And you become so aware of some of these things that are happening. You're just like, okay, so that's happening right now. So I'm doing a lot of opening, a lot of relaxing myself, a lot of, okay, I'm in this, but it feels like I'm holding onto a tree in a storm, and being very conscious of that and trying to open my heart. And I was able to spend quite a bit of time with that particular vibration, which feels just rotten. It's a horrible feeling vibration. And to stay in it, it was really challenging. But I spent most of that night, because it was an evening thing, working through it and holding my light, as we know so well with this MSU work that we do, being able to stay in that program and train it to something much higher really paid off. The the beauty about that program and doing, in and of itself, that's a golden opportunity to work through some of my shit that hadn't been activated for a very long time, or rarely does. A lot of these things need multiple activations before you get them all, the whole thing, because they're pretty big. But then the byproduct, if you like, of having such a huge internal reaction, is like fire in your body, really very intense emotion, that particular one, that vibration of humiliation, or what I perceived was a humiliating event. That's just the perception of the programs. And the wound that was activated it had this really unexpected byproduct of burning through some denial programs. So it's almost like there's a flame that was like just dedicated to just knocking through another wall. And I know about myself, I have had many denial programs that I've slowly been knocking down, wall after wall after wall, of seeing myself being able to express fully, coming back to the person I am before all the programming, before the wounding. There was a big denial program protecting another program that I didn't want to see in myself, which I haven't really got a proper name for, but I've settled on hostility, and it has many components. Hostility being spitefulness, being enmity, hate, mostly self-hate. And I've had, I know I have programs of that still there. Many I've worked through, which is wonderful and very freeing, but many to go. And disgust. So it's kind of bunched all together. You've got this kind of fight going on with the world outside of you, and it's all wounding related. And you don't even know who you're battling with most of the time. It's just the world. I'm just ready for anything. And I do think some of my sensitivities as a HSP played into that as well, because you feel like the odd one out, and there's just one of you and no one else seems to be in that boat, or maybe they're hiding it very well, more well than me. And so I fell into that programming that was now wide open for me to see. And I remembered, because I had programming of forgetting, that I knew about this program already years ago. I didn't know it was a program. I knew about it on some level, and I purposely, subconsciously, of course, pushed it down, pushed it away. I don't want to see it, because it is one that made me feel safe, that I could be ready for anything. And without it, I'm just open and vulnerable. And that is very scary. Even now, even having worked through a lot of it, it's very scary, because the world is harsh. And it's not just because of that. It's because my experiences have felt harsh to me. And interestingly, there was another aspect to this, which is a deep understanding, because I have some of the clairs, and this one's around an inner knowing. Once I'd opened to it, more information was available to me, because the denial wasn't blocking it. And some of it is this lifetime, my learnings, my behavioral programs and other things. And some of it is ancestral. It is in both lines. And there is stuff here that isn't mine, but it is, so to speak, mine to now heal. So it's like a double whammy of your own stuff and quite a lot of other people's in your line, because a lot of that became quite apparent, and who and how much and why also became apparent, which was interesting. And it felt like a big pressure, like a really big pressure to carry, that I would have to do it all. But it was actually my job to deal with this whole massive pile of energy that's about this programming. So I've been slowly, because it's only a couple of months ago, working through a lot of this almost daily, seeing where it shows up all of the time, so subtle, so clever, So clever, not overt, just the energy underneath certain things that have been normalized. Really interesting. So that's it in a nutshell. I'm happy to talk to some of the manifestations of that and whatnot, but
beautiful breakdown. No, keep going. There's so much there. Thanks for breaking all of that down. I'd love to stay with the ancestral stuff for just a moment, because this is something that I've seen in myself, I've seen in other people. When you get to know family members and whatnot, you can see the programs that clearly are being passed down within the family. And I'd love for you, from your experiences, to just share a little more about exactly how you felt that manifest in your life, or how you can understand the difference between what's yours versus like what is something that, as you said, like you're doing this kind of like for both your sides of your family. Like it's almost, I always see it as like, almost like, this is what I chose this family for part of the reason of I've decided I'm going to be the one to take care of this in this lifetime.
So how it's manifested, to answer one part of that. So how it's manifested has been becoming quite smart about how I deal with people. So if there are, I have always felt so much of people's stuff without really realizing it, or having, being able to articulate that or understand it for a long time, until I found this work with Rachel. And that always makes me feel like I'm in a battle with everyone because of the projections. And I also project. So like, that's part of me fighting back, is I project self-judgment that's in me onto others. We all have that. And disgust, that is definitely a projection of just, how dare you be this person? Not conscious, just happening. Superiority, being wiser than you. That is a very hard one for me, because it's all about the energy underneath. If I subconsciously have to wind in some wisdom that I don't know, happen to have access to, it's just something that's there. If the come from is pure, that's fine. The outcome is the same. I'm still sharing it. But if the come from is, in some way, I feel inferior in this conversation, or this exchange, or this interaction, or I have something to prove, maybe because I sense you're more superior, or you're even looking down on me, if that program's running, then it's automatic to just use what is wisdom, insights, things you can sense in people, to make it less painful. To be like, no, I'm not small and insignificant and inferior. I'm equal. But the way I go about it is, and this isn't all the time, it's just that the truth is it happens some of the time. And I've had to start tuning into, where am I coming from here? Why am I wanting to open my mouth and share something? Or even in a debate, where I don't find it that hard to give people stuff to think about, because I'm a curious person and I have lots to talk about, but because I enjoy things and new things and discoveries, and I search for stuff and I look into things that people don't look into, and I get bored of just what's been normalized in our world. It's just so boring. And that's not a judgment, just to me, it's like, I want to go do this thing over here and look at that thing, and that person's interesting, and I like that, even though it's weird. And
Yeah, well, boredom comes from like the lack of connection to our soul. When we're bored, it's like our souls. That's the emotion that our soul's giving us. That hey, we're not growing right now. We need to let's go. Like let's light the fire and let's find some passion. And so yes, because I would say the world is very disconnected from the soul's calling collectively as a whole from what I've seen and experienced. Yeah, it can be very boring. So why not go and study this and look at this over here that is exciting, that fills the soul up.
Yeah, 100%. And it's part of my energy as well. Like I have Gemini energy that I have massively suppressed my whole life because, you know, it's been intense, if I'm honest. Even now, I'm still working on opening to that. And with certain people and situations that comes out and I'm like, fucking hell. Sorry, I surely shouldn't. You can bleep that. I'm a little surprised by myself because I still have a lot of permission seeking in being just all of that because it's very intense for people. So yeah, it suits me to be exploring all the time and inquisitive and finding people that are saying different things and what are they saying and why are they saying it and what backs it up and how does that work and can I break it apart and see it differently. And it speaks to a part of me that wants to understand from just a curiosity place, like not a need to know because I can hold it lightly. So yeah, gone a bit off piste there, but yes,
okay.
There are so many reasons as to why it sort of manifests and comes through, and there's many ways that it shows itself, but it isn't me being, you know, occasionally I can go into some hostility and be a little bit, you know, closed and harder in, you know, abrupt, or, you know, we all have those moments. Usually that's mostly anger. But it's not too far afield from hostility. There's a lot of that similar vibration. Hate has got some similar qualities to anger and hostility and spitefulness. They have a similar, they're not the same, but they do have some almost a slight resonance with each other. They know they're familiar with each other. That's about as far as I think I can take it with that. But they're kind of familiar with each other. They kind of, and they slot together quite well. So yeah, that's some of how it's manifested. And I think, Danny, you were asking about how I understood that it was ancestral and who had what and what was mine and what was theirs. And the other part to that is really, I don't really have the answer to that. I just know. I just have a sense of, oh, that it's very neat and tidy. It's that bit's mine and that doesn't belong to me somehow. It's just not my, it doesn't feel familiar to me. It feels somewhat detached, if that makes sense. So this stuff is really like in me, it's attached to me, but that's the same kind of program, but it's almost detached from me. That's kind of how it feels if I were to try and explain it. So it's more that inner knowing that there is much more than my stuff here, even though it's the same. It's like, gosh, as a visual, it's like I'm in a bubble and I know all of my stuff that's there. And then I look out because it's like a see-through bubble. It's like a transparent bubble where I go, oh, I know all those as well. And they're really close to me in the bubble, but they're outside of the bubble. Does that make sense? So as a visual, that's how it comes through now to me, is I'm like, oh, that's all mine. It's attracted to mine as well. Because it's like for like, but there's a bubble that's mine. And does that make sense? So yeah, probably not, but that's the best I can do.
No, we're with you. And just because throughout this work, you know, part of it is opening, clearing and detaching from things that aren't ours. So I'd love for you to just go into what's the difference there between, okay, well, when I'm doing this work, I'm just alchemizing what's mine, but this is something that you're saying that it's yours, but it's also not yours at the same time, correct?
Exactly. Yes. So I guess technically in this lifetime it now is mine, but
different to, just for the listeners, different to like walking into a grocery store as a highly sensitive person, feeling all of the energies that you're picking up from other people. When you leave the grocery store, you can clear out all the energies that kind of you've attracted onto you, which aren't yours. This is something different we're talking about in terms of detachment and attachment, right?
Yes, I mean, absolutely. So I'm still feeling through this and figuring this out. And obviously at the moment where I've come to with that is there is always open, clear, detach, and try and energetically detach from those programs. I think what's going to happen, and this is my guess from what the early kind of stuff I've worked through so far, because I don't think I've got to everything else just yet, is the more I am able to alchemize of this program that's mine in this lifetime, the greater, the higher the frequency in the bubble, so to speak, the greater likelihood I'll be able to entrain the other energies outside the bubble. So in doing that, the more I get, the more I can elevate, because it's not like it starts from the center and you just go out. It's all different pockets within the bubble. As soon as I start, that's how I kind of see it, if I can explain it. As soon as I evolve certain pockets within the bubble that are mine, the more likely the ones that are attracted on the outside, because they're the same frequency, start to entrain to a higher frequency. That's how I think it's going to work with the limited access to understanding it that I have, because I think there's we try and bring things down to a level where we can understand here. I think there's probably more going on, but I think that's where I'm I think that's what's happening, is the more I can do here, the more the power, it becomes more powerful, more there's more potential for entraining the other energies that are not mine but have a similar frequency, that also have a consciousness, and I feel have been given to me to elevate.
And when you say given to you, you mean like given to you through this like ancestral line?
Yeah. So I think it's a mutual thing. I think my soul's got some say in it, and I do think it's part of, because we're all one ultimately, whether we're in here or somewhere else or in having another life or whatever it might be. I think there is an understanding at some level that it's going to go here now and it's going to go there now, and this is a very rudimentary level that there's some we talk often, people talk about contracting as well, soul contracting. I'm sure a level of that, although I know very little about soul contracting, I'm sure that a level of that is some understanding that's outside of just your decision as to what you're going to do. It's just, how does it work in the whole network, yeah.
I mean, again, totally relate. And I do feel like, I think for the three of us too, we really came here to heal everybody's stuff. Stuff. And as you were talking about the hostility and the hate and the denial and the disgust that comes with all of that too, I've been moving through a lot of that, and I feel my mom so much in me. It's almost like I can't differentiate what's her and what's me, because I've just become all of it. And something that I'm moving through big time is all of my trauma with religion and like the brainwashing that did to me, and how much I had to endure and go through with all of that. And now when people come for me, or when people attack me, or when people are questioning my path right now, I immediately go into everything my mom used to do to me, which is, I hate you. I'm going to blow fire out of my mouth. I'm going to make you feel very small and very inferior. And I go into this place of, you want to attack me, I will attack you too. And it's like two dragons just blowing fire on each other. And it's not until that battle is over that I realize I just got lost in all of these programs, and who was I and where did I just go and what just happened. And I was going into a healing yesterday where I literally saw a vision of my inner child absorbing everything that religion did to me. And I saw my soul separating itself from me, because what religion taught me was separation. It was division. It was everything outside of you is going to save you, is going to love you. And I saw how I was splitting away from my divinity. And that's what I was like programmed and conditioned to do my entire life until I saw this path. And now this path is so precious to me, so sacred to me. So when people come for me in that way, I don't know what else to do but to go into battle with, I will kill you. Like, I will destroy you. And and there it is again, I'm disconnected from my divinity, and I'm back to what I was programmed to do growing up all of my life in religion. And so it's fascinating to see that and start to really break down the programming of all of that. But it's deep because it targets. And that's another thing too, is like, I think social media, when we show up so vulnerably, like, we're not going on social media going, you should buy this thermos because it's really good and it really makes your teas hot, right? We're going on social media going, this is my soul, this is my heart, this is my trauma, and this is my openness. And then people come and shoot daggers into that. It's like, I don't know what else to do but to go into protective mode. And like, that's beautiful because it allows me to see that's what I need to heal so that I can be so powerful. Then I realized too, the reason why I get so defensive or I get so hostile is because there's still so much shakiness with the foundation that I'm building, because the unraveling of all of that, right? The conditioning, the programs, I'm still building that firm foundation. So when people are shooting daggers and arrows into that, it's still, I got to be defensive and I got to be angry because the foundation is still not solid. And I was telling Danny yesterday, like, if someone came up to me and said, you're a thief and you stole this, this, and that, I would be so powerful in the knowing that I'm not a thief, I didn't steal that. And there would be no reason for me to be angry and defensive and hostile. But because I'm still building that foundation, when you come for me, it's still this, oh my, and then all the programs get activated. So it's beautiful. It's so necessary, this part of our journey, but it's also super difficult because we're not at the end of it where we can really speak about it in a way of like coming from power. And so I really relate to this deeply. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you are so right. It is absolutely one of the most vulnerable times of my entire life. And it's an ongoing vulnerability. It's not like it's, oh, this will do a year. Right. And I can deal with that. It's I don't know when this is going to be over and I'll have a stable foundation. I don't know how much is in there. I don't know. But I've got to quite a lot of it and I can't stop now. So keep going, even though I've got maybe one brick. I might have one brick in my foundation right now. I have no idea how many bricks there are to make it steady. I don't know. So you kind of got to go in with it with no expectations about how it's going to go or what it's going to do, just seeing the whole time. Okay, I got my one brick, so good. I've made a start, but equally some other people are going to come try and take that brick now. They're going to try and take it, it's that. And there's those same programs. I'm like, oh, okay, I might be able to turn this one into another brick. This is going to be good. Yeah. I'm trying to think of it a bit like that actually this is so big. Actually for me, this is so huge. Hence I needed this massive ironclad denial program to cover it up, that actually I could entrain this little baby to something really high, to something that could be its own brick, using that metaphor. So this is the access point to power, to that strong foundation. But like all these things, it really is going through the fire of it all for however long that takes and not giving up. And that's the biggest job we'll ever do, I think, honestly. It's the hardest, but it's worthwhile.
You're speaking some words to my soul right now. I needed to hear you say a few of the things in here today, because just going back to what we started with, this sequence. I don't know if you found this, but for me, I loved this word you used earlier, like a stepping stone, right? There's like a stepping stone of, I need to heal this right now. And then that leads you to another thing, and that leads you to another thing, and that leads you to another thing. within each of those stones that we have to step and hop across the river, right? For me, there's a new layer of avoidance, self-sabotage, resistance that I face, and it's slightly different with each step of that stone. So I'll get very comfortable with kind of like the layer of healing that I'm at in that particular sequence. And then I'm like, okay, I know what this is. And I, like the same thing will get reflected. And I'll get to a place that'll kind of bottom out. And then there'll be a new step. And when I make that new step onto the next stone, metaphorically we're speaking here, all of this like different level of resistance and different programs kind of come up. And then it pulls me deeper into more unconsciousness. And it's interesting, what I've been experiencing recently is the programs that are coming alive in me right now. They're strong. They're pulling me deeper into unconsciousness than almost it feels like I've ever been. And I know part of that is like, it's because I'm getting closer and closer to the root, and the pain's getting more. And so the programs are freaking out, and they're like, grasping and throwing the Hail Mary. They're grasping at all the straws, and they're pulling all of the dirty little tricks that they love to do to pull us out of our connection to our higher self and our heart. But yeah, it's been really challenging because as soon as we're in that unconsciousness, we forget, right? It's the nature of unconsciousness. We're not aware of we're running the program. We're not aware we're in this part of our healing. And yeah, I'm just wondering if you've experienced a similar thing within this sequence. Is that something that you've seen? And is that part of the denial as one of these deeper layers of kind of like the sabotage of your journey?
Yeah, I think that denial is, again, I think it's familiar with sabotage, but I think actually this was a form of protecting the ego. That this denial program meant that I had a lot of distance between seeing something that comes up quite often that would otherwise be quite obvious. Like many of my programs have been quite obvious to me. I've been able to get into them quite early, and whereas the ones that are behind walls my ego's put in to prevent me from being able to get to, because that's a real thing, it's less a sabotage and more of a self-protection. My ego's trying to protect itself. I've definitely got self-sabotage programs, 100%. They're mostly linked to, they've mostly got a fear root. It's usually fear when I come back to the root of them. In terms of the original programming, but the wound is varied, it depends. For me, I think denial's definitely there's been more of that to me than other programs like self-sabotage, but it's definitely an experience I've had, in uncovering a lot of these programs, is to have some self-sabotage, because we all have the saboteur, that is part of our journey, everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, and something that I get to witness obviously in Danny's journey is like, I see you going deeper, and then when we go deeper and the more unconscious stuff comes up, it's like, are we even doing any work? Is anything even working? And it's like, no, we're just going deeper. And like, again, I have to come back to, there is no blueprint for this, right? There's no manual that we get and we'll go, hey, this is what it's going to look like and what you're going to move through. And when you go deeper, you're going to think that you're doing nothing. And in fact, you're just getting deeper, which is like really just a beautiful reflection of how much work you're doing on yourself. But I'm just wanted to say that because I'm witnessing that's what you're experiencing in your journey right now, Danny. And like, you've come so far and you just got more to go, right? Like the rest of us. And yeah, it's just so wild to see, like, are we even doing anything? And then it's like, well, that's the nature of the programs. The programs want you to think the deeper you go, you're not doing anything and nothing's ever working. And you've been exactly where you were. And it's like, no, I wish sometimes we could get this like bird's eye view and be like, oh my God, look how far you went. And like, look where you're going. And that would be easy, right? And nothing about this is easy. So I would expect nothing less. But
yeah, I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just to say, in response to that, like the hard part is I've seen like you, Ellie, and other people run similar programs. And when they will come out, I was like, oh, that's not really in me. And then I get into these deeper layers, and all of a sudden, I'm like, am I even heal anything? Am I on the right path? Like, I fall into the same traps that I've seen other people fall into, of which I thought like, oh, that's not part of me, because I wasn't really running it at that time. And it's really interesting, you know, once you move through that layer, to then look back and be like, oh wow, yeah, I really did fall into that little unconscious trap there that my programs are trying to, you know, lead me down, so that I don't have to feel the deeper stuff that's in there.
100%. And there is also a little, like, there's something I've realized having worked with many clients. So I have a lot of new people coming into my life, and that means there's a lot of new experiences, because everyone's obviously their unique self. And I've noticed, if there's something I notice in someone else, there's maybe a little left field, or it's maybe like, oh, that's coming through quite strong. I'm like, oh, damn it, I've probably got that one. Even if I can't see it, I'm immediately like, because you can often see yourself in other people, including their programs, even if you're like, that's definitely not me or mine. I've learned that it's like, oh no, there's probably a little bit of that there. Damn, I haven't got to that one yet. Just got to wait for that to come around. And sometimes you can be a bit more active with it and try and pursue it and use that as a bit of a trigger. But yeah, it's people are genuinely they're mirrors. And if you recognize that energy, you probably have it within you. And, you know, we have many of the same sorts of programs, all of us, you know. So it's, it's always good fun meeting a new person, especially. You're like, oh, us? Yeah, okay. We both got the same stuff.
Yeah.
I'll just go and work on that now. I'll be back in a minute.
Can you just give me 1 hour? Yeah. Just got my notepad.
Yeah, that's efficient, Danny. Like, I don't know when I'll be back, but I'll be back.
Or like when certain words jump out, like you know, we can all listen to like a teaching, right? And certain things will jump out or be emphasized than to Emily or Danny. And I know, like, oh, that's a message for me that I need to go look into that kind of thing. Yeah, it's fascinating. And, you know, I'm just going to use Danny as an example right now, because he's moving through a hard time right now. And I think like because shit is always hitting the fan, right? I think I can say that for the three of us. It's like, it's never like a beach. You know what I'm saying? It's always something. Even if it's a little, it's always something, right? And then we go into these waves where it's like, no, we dip real low and it feels like everything is horrible. And I actually like to see this time that you're moving through, Danny, as like these really beautiful markers of like, no, you've hit like you've hit the next level, which is why it's this hard and it's this difficult and it's this challenging. And like, I keep saying to you, like, just move through this. Like, you're going so like deep into your stuff. And when you're hitting these different markers, it really feels like hopelessness and there isn't. And it's like, no, that's actually like such a beautiful indicator of like where you're at. Like, we're on a Monopoly board and you're in this like really pivotal place. And like, you got to just keep going and getting through it. And like, these tests of initiation and these cycles of wisdom, like, they're never pretty. And the uglier they are and the uglier they feel, like, yeah, that's like a real big indicator that like you're hitting a huge milestone in your path and journey. And so that's a message to anybody out there who's moving through some really hard times, because it is not easy right now, and it will continue to not be easy. So just be okay with the uneasiness as it comes.
Yeah. And that we've got a lot of catching up to do. The backdrop is like, there's a lot to do in a short space of time.
Yes.
So it's great in many ways, because we get to speed through quite a lot of this at like breakneck speed, whereas that was never
right
the way it went. You know, you do what we're doing in maybe one lifetime over God knows how many.
Yes.
And so it's more intense, but it's needed. As far as I'm aware, it is needed now to move through at this kind of pace and this intensity. So
are you sure? Are you sure it's needed? Are you sure?
Yeah, I sometimes have some questions. I do. I definitely have some questions. I have some conversations with my higher self occasionally. They go well. Other times, not so good. Not so good. They're a little desperate on my part. Why? That's generally the way it goes. But no, not always. It's fun and games. I like to say it's fun and games. Sometimes more fun than other times, but it is what it is. Like, it is what it is. And if you're committed and you're in, you know, even though you do have the doubts. And actually, one of the ways I've been able to celebrate, because I actually had to do this, because I do this in my other parts of my life, why wouldn't I do it in this part where I'm on my healing journey, is I keep a log of things. And I look back at it when I really need to and go, oh yeah, that was a big thing. Because you just forget. If I don't need to retain something, I lose it. It's gone. Like, it's just gone. I'm like, oh, sorry, that you know, thing I needed to do. No, sorry, that went. And it's less programming. It's just more, there's only so much my brain can hold at the forefront. Like, if you want me to retrieve it, it's going to take some time. So instead, look at the log and check out some of those moments. You know, I highlight a couple of things just so I can come back to some of them and just remind myself of how far I've come, because occasionally you need that. And that's part of being self-empowered. I go be my own cheerleader sometimes, because sometimes you got to do it. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. How do you feel, Danny? You feel better from this conversation?
Has that solved it all for you, Danny?
Yeah, no, I mean,
you can just breathe through this one.
It's all spot on. I mean, it's just, you know, it's interesting because up until this last, I would say, like, since my birthday, which was in September, we're in November right now.
We're in December. We are in November.
We're in November. This probably won't come out until December, maybe January. Yeah, I was definitely like, oh, this is fun, even when it was like really difficult. But it feels like where this last week, I've just arrived at a place where I'm like, it doesn't feel fun anymore. Like, it feels relentless, and it's challenge. It's like, I feel like it, where I'm at, I've lost that fun spark, to this work, to this journey. And that's where it's challenging, because before there was always this part of me that loved going and doing it, and Ellie can attest to that. Like, I would get excited when I was triggered. Now it's not that what it feels like is, it's not that I'm getting triggered and I don't want to go into it. It's that I'm either doing good, or I wake up and I'm just in it, and it doesn't let up for days, and I'm like trying to work through all this stuff, and I just get lost, just super lost. So I know that fun part will come back, and maybe I do just need to read back in my journal and be a cheerleader for myself. I watched this video today of this little girl on social media who's snowboarding. She's like, does this like trick thing, and then she's at the end, she's like, I'm so proud of myself. Hey daddy, I'm so proud of myself. And it's so cute. And it's like, wow, that's the kind of beings that we need to become, is like being proud of ourselves about what, not looking for that from her dad. Like, she's so young, she's like probably like 5, and instead of being like, daddy, are you proud of me? Like, no, I'm proud of myself for what I did. So maybe this is just a calling for me to start looking at what I have done this year and stop focusing on all of the the misery that I feel.
It's tough though. When you're in it, and it's hard. You just got to ride it a bit. But you know, we're coming to the end of the year now, and it's that kind of age-old resolution time setting where we look back on all the stuff, and we've just had the full moon as well. We look back and we're like, what's going to be new? You know, what's going to be new for this year, or what am I going to carry forward into this year is probably a better, you know, with this kind of work. We've all done such a lot And maybe actually this is a call for us to all spend a bit more time maybe peppering some of this journey with a bit more celebration, self-celebration, group celebration. Let's get together and, like, you know, in the cheesiest way possible, pat ourselves on the back and be like, hoorah.
Yeah.
Everything we just did, it might just be a time to do more of that. Because, you know, everyone needs a little bit of whoop whoop every now and again.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why are we here? Obviously, we're here to heal. That is actually number one, of course. But, you know.
Yeah. And I think with the two of you, I can really feel the warrior spirit in the two of you. And it's like, what we're like, guys, just take a moment for a second. What we're doing is so out of this world difficult. Like, what we are doing is the hardest job in this entire planet, what we really are doing. And yet we tend to focus on the hardship and the losses instead of like seeing how many wins we've got. Like, I'll look back on this year and go, holy crap, I'm still alive. I still made it. And I learned a lot along the way. All right. So I'll pat myself in the back. This was not an easy year. And every year since my awakening, I'm sure you guys really, has been different and difficult in its own way. But this year came and spanked me hard. And I still got a butt and I'm still here. And I go on. And so, you know, I think this is just a beautiful reminder as we close this year out of like, guys, we did it, and it's still going to be a lot of this, and we're still getting up and choosing ourselves no matter how difficult it is. And I just want to take the moment to like salute every single person on this path, because holy shit, this ain't no joke.
Yeah. Oh, you summed it up there, Ellie. That was beautiful. And you have very much have the warrior spirit totally embodied. It's you know, it's in all of us. Anyone that chooses this path, you don't last very long if it's not there. But you're quite right. Let's maybe use this period of time as a way to like do a bit of a review and celebrate a little bit. That's definitely feeling like that's needed. Definitely needed. And I might even crack a bottle of wine. I don't know. I'm thinking I might get some champagne. Just make that one for me. I won't drink it all to myself, of course. That's kind of sad. But I will share it, obviously. But I may do that. I may write my name on the bottle. I'm going to do that. All sorts of ideas blooming here. I'm going to do that.
Yeah, love it. You get your bottle of wine, I'll get a cake, and I'll put icing. My name on that. Yeah,
I love that. I want to see a picture of that cake.
She's been baking. She's been baking. Let me tell you,
Ellie, we need to chat. I love baking and I love decorating cakes. I have not been able to do it since I had a child because it's just no time. But yeah, very much decorating. We are
vegan, gluten free. That's Ellie's jam right there.
We'll do it all.
Yeah. We've learned you can't do it sugar free though. It's the one thing you can't compromise. But.
Coconut sugar.
That's all we use.
It's a winner. Yeah, got it. See, we need to talk. This is great.
Emily, what a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much. I feel like this was the refresher that me and Danny needed. We're going through a lot. But to anyone at home, if you are interested in working with Emily, Danny, or any of the other amazing and mystical life coaches, one-on-one or in a group class, set up a free consultation with us at masterselfuniversity.com. Remember to share, like, subscribe, comment. It really helps us to do this podcast for free and continue it. And check out Rachel's book, The 20 Universal Ways of Oneness, on Amazon, and the digital course at masterselfuniversity.com. I love you two so much. Thank you for being on the path with me and everyone else listening to this. Let's keep on riding. Let's keep on climbing to the top. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Danny.